Hello, this is an animation that I put on YouTube several months ago, and it shows multiple pieces of geometry, that is these arrows, that are being modulated in terms of their Y scale by a sine function. And I had a few requests to put a tutorial up on how to do this, which is what I will do at this time. The starting point is a single piece of geometry, which is in this case is shown here. It's a simple arrow shape created from a cylinder, and basically what we will do is first animate this arrow by writing a simple expression, and then we will make multiple copies or duplicates of the arrow to create the animation. So the first step is to select the arrow, open the expression editor, and make a simple expression. And what we're going to do is make this expression relative to the Y scale. So we select Y scale, and here is the expression. And basically the way it reads is this a piece of geometry which is called arrow. Arrow dot scale Y equals the sine of, and we'll base this on frame, divided by 5. So this will set the uh, frequency of the cycles of the sine wave, plus a value here which will determine how many arrows are going to be necessary to complete one cycle of the sine wave. So we hit create, and that seems to work. And if we now hit play, we'll see that the arrow is animated. In other words, it smoothly changes its Y scale from plus to minus values according to the sine function. The next step is to make duplicates of or multiple copies of this arrow. To do this, we will use the duplicate special function. So we'll go to edit and look down to duplicate special with options, and let's make a few changes here. We're going to group this according to the world, and we'll start out with 4 copies. So 4 copies, and we want to uh, duplicate the input graph. So check this, and then hit, we'll have to select the arrow, and then hit duplicate special. So what we have here are our 4 duplicates, and what we need to do is for each duplicate we need to position it along the x-axis. So select each duplicate and position it. You can use whatever level of precision you want to do this. And so we'll select the duplicates, position them. Okay, and then for each duplicate, this is the original arrow here. If we open the expression editor, so go to Windows, I have a shortcut I'll use here, expression editor, go to Windows Animation Editor's expression editor, and if we look here at the work that we did previously, if we select the scale Y, you see this is the expression that we had previously written. And so we need to do this, modify this expression for each arrow. And so for arrow 1, select the Y scale function here. And that will show, notice that this duplicate special has duplicated the expression, and it's also updated the name. It's arrow 1. And what we need to do is to put in this value here that will determine the density of the arrows um, along the sine function. And so what I'll use here is a value of 0.4. So we enter that and hit edit, and you can see that had an effect. Let's do a few more of these. Arrow 2, select this scale Y, and we're going to go in increments of 0.4. So this will be 0.8. So we hit edit, and that's worked. Select the next arrow and select the scale Y, and here will be 1.2. So we'll put in a value, add 4/10 to 0.8, so it'll be 1.2. So we edit that, and then this last arrow, once again we'll locate the scale Y, which will bring up this expression. Again, note this updated expression name, and here it'll be 1.6. Okay, so edit that, and so that works. So you can begin to see, I think, what the object here is. If we hit play, you can see how these arrows are successively following the curvature of the sine function. So that if, let's say that if we had 15 or 20 of these arrows laid out, it would pretty well define the sine wave. And so what I will do is I will go ahead and complete creating some more duplicates, and I'll pause the animation while I do this. Okay, I'm back, and have entered or modified the expressions for each of the arrow duplicates, and you can see the effect that it has on amplitude. And so if you hit play, you can see it, you get this effect that looks like the sine wave modulating the Y scale or amplitude of these arrows. So as you can see, it's quite simple to create this animation. You can do it in a very short period of time. It is also possible to duplicate these animations that you've already made. So for example, if I can find my cursor here, select these arrows and open duplicate special, and this time instead of duplicate input graphs, uncheck that and duplicate input connections, check this, and hit duplicate special. You can see now that we've basically doubled the number of arrows, and if we move this down, basically you could in effect produce a visual representation of even a larger number of arrows. So if we hit play, you can see that you could quickly reproduce additional arrows. Additionally, you could do something like you could select all of these arrows and duplicate them as well. So go back to duplicate special, and with the same options, click duplicate special, and this time we will rotate the duplicated objects in the x-axis. So we'll rotate in the x-axis by 90 degrees. By 90 degrees. And so let's adjust the view here. And let's change the color, so we'll give this a different color. I'll give it a blend. And let's just set the blend color to like a green color. And then deselect. And so now basically we have this type of display, which is basically a type of display you would see if you were going to show electromagnetic waves, in which in this case red would be the voltage, which is 90 degrees out of alignment with the magnetic waves. And so there's some interesting things that you can do with animations of this type, particularly because of the special capabilities of this duplicate special function and the sine function in Autodesk Maya. Here we've changed the view of the of this animation. Obviously, the quality of the animation could be a lot better if, for example, you increase the number of objects per sine wave cycle and some other effects. So to summarize what we've done, first we created an object, in this case an arrow. Secondly, we wrote an expression to animate a attribute of this piece of geometry, namely the Y scale. Thirdly, we use the duplicate special function with options, including the world grouping, the number of duplicates, and we check the duplicate input graph. Then for each graph, or each duplicate, we modify the expression as needed to, for example, in this case, to control the number of duplicates in one cycle of the sine wave. And finally, as a quick way to make additional copies of the animations made above, we use the duplicate special function again, this time checking duplicate input connections to make virtually an unlimited number of copies of the animation. So that concludes the discussion, and hopefully this was of interest to some of you. Thanks for watching.